COO of Circle Optics, a company local to Rochester that deals with optical systems in a brand new camera technology that'll be able to revolutionize what's currently out there.
Thanks for having me, Gillian.
What does Circle Optics do and what's their main focus?
Yeah, so Circle Optics, we develop wide field of view imaging systems for defense and aerospace. We use a novel approach invented by our founder, Zach Niazi, who's a graduate of the University of Rochester.
What is the flagship product that you guys have currently out?
Yeah, so our flagship product is Hydra. What the system we're releasing, we're calling Hydra 2 because the first one really was our prototype system. That's going to be out later this year. And it's a 360-degree camera designed around the media and entertainment market needs. So it's a very high-end camera system, captures a nearly spherical field of view. And what's unique about it compared to other 360-degree cameras out there, despite being, high resolution, or in addition to being high resolution, is the fact that we don't require any stitching or post-processing required by other types of 360-degree cameras. Ours is point and shoot, just like traditional movie cameras today.
All right. So why this industry? Why cameras?
Yeah, well, for me, it was more about startup and building something and trying something new. Obviously for our founder, he studied optics. So that's why he went that direction and started building cameras. Although there's lots of things you can do with optics, from fiber optics to LEDs to a bunch of different things. But I know his background and, the driving thing for him was that he loves to travel and go different places. And when he was away living in Australia, he was thinking about this camera and wishing he could show his parents where he was living. And he was trying to come up with, a better way to do this. He saw that Google Street View had cameras on top of all their cars, and he knew that we had headsets, and he wondered, why can't you just put in a headset and see anywhere that a Google Street View car has driven, nice 60 frames per second walkthrough. And the reason has to do with this processing to try to correct the images. Other 360 cameras, they're trying to use a camera that's not designed to do what ours are designed to do, to capture the spherical view of the world. And they're trying to take a bunch of these cameras and stitch them together. So essentially, they're putting a Band-Aid on a wound or trying to stitch a wound. And what our system does is we capture better content right up front at the level of the optics, so that you don't have to do any of that correction afterwards in post-processing and computer power.
Yeah, the stats for it are really impressive online. So with that, his drive was being interested in the optics. Then what is more along your drive of being involved? Because startups are very time intensive. Everyone knows this.
So my background's actually architecture. That's what I graduated RIT with, was my Master of Architecture. Zach and I were close friends going all the way back to when we were at University of Rochester together. And I've changed my focus in careers and studies many times, from engineering to architecture history. I had psychology minor, and I spent a whole year studying German history and culture and lived in Germany for a bit, but before settling on architecture. But I think the big driver to me was I was working at a big company right out of school, and it was great. But I just felt like I was so low on the totem pole, and I wanted to have a bigger influence over what my company was doing. When I got the opportunity to join a startup as the first employee and, looked at all the different places I could go, I can define my own career path and what I want to do within the company. And I could set up the company culture and just be right in the ground floor of all those things. That was something that was really exciting to me. And at the same time, I also really bought the vision that Zach was trying to go for about, like, how can we scalably map the world? How can we use a better camera technology to capture all these immersive experiences and democratize them so that they're easily accessible by everyone?
Yeah, this is very much just bringing everything in, having the new technology and sharing would be really cool for a bunch of different fields. Like, I remember talking and hearing about having it go up on a satellite even.
Yeah, so our initial vision is immersive media and entertainment, and that's the system that we're releasing this year. But a lot of our funding to date, outside of investment, has come through the SBIR and STHR program. So many, if not all, groups within the government have to spend at least 10% of their budgets on small businesses. And the DoD, having a massive budget, has to spend the most on small businesses of any group within the government, the federal government. So they're constantly sponsoring new innovations and research. And during the pandemic, we were looking at options to, keep the startup going and continue to fund the great work that we were doing. And we kept seeing that, especially the Air Force was releasing topics where they're looking for better camera systems. So we started to read through them, and based on our expertise and our patents, we're like, well, we think we have, something that could be very applicable to a lot of their different use cases. So that was kind of the first kind of big pivot for us, or it was really more of a split. We added a second vertical to our initial vertical. Beyond that, I mean, there's use cases in healthcare, there's use cases for autonomous vehicles, mapping purposes. We've probably identified more than a dozen different verticals that are we have a potential for with our camera technology, but we're just kind of do one thing at a time, and we'll work with partners down the road when we plan to expand and conquer those other markets.
Yeah, DoD definitely has a lot. I had to do for a presentation earlier today, and it was about $1 billion a day for their funding, and just sounds outrageous.
That's an absurd number. Do you know the difference between $1 billion and $1 million?
It uh,
approximately $1 billion. It's 0.1% is a million. That's a rounding error that a lot of accountants would just wipe away. So yeah. That's how big $1 billion is.
Definitely a great place to go to for beginning funding. We even do that with the club I'm in with Launch. There's a thing called the Space Grant Consortium that gives us $2,000 for any of our projects. So we've just been doing that constantly. So continuing along this, so how will the product try to adapt and fit in? So the camera, so say on an airplane versus at a concert.
Yeah. So what's really great about our patents and our kind of technological breakthrough here is it's not a singular product. It really, truly is a new paradigm in camera creation, where we're using lenses that are non-circular to create non-circular fields of view, polygonal specifically here, so that we can combine those polygonal fields of view together to create a composite field of view in real time, right? Initially, our thought was, let's go as big as possible. Let's capture the full 360. But for a lot of different applications that we've explored, some people don't want a full spherical 360, want a hemispherical 180 by 360 field of view. So we started looking into that, and there's lots of different configurations we can do beyond using the truncated icosahedron. Oh man, I feel bad for the interpreter on that one. We can use, we use a dodecahedron. So we started looking at using a truncated icosahedron instead. So that's a soccer ball shape, but there's actually an infinite number of shapes that you can use by putting these polygons together to really zone in on or zoom in on the specs required by your end customer.
Any chance of doing stuff like infrared, I'm assuming?
Yeah, we actually have a preliminary infrared design already. We did that while we were working on a NASA project where they were looking at deploying our camera technology from a small aircraft to look for potential collisions. And in order to sense collisions in foggy or cloudy conditions, you actually want to use IR instead of visible light. So we did a preliminary study there. Same thing, you're just combining, polygon fields of view, you're just using a different sensor and wavelength of light.
All right. So with all that with the products, where's like the ultimate main goal? Because this can cover so many fields. Like, what are some of the first fields you're planning on going towards? Is it more just the entertainment? Is it more the defense route?
Yeah, I mean, so defense, there's a lot of really great early R&D there. Probably one of the biggest things that we started to hear when we were talking to people in defense, and we did the National I-Corps program. So we had 120 conversations with people in defense about potential applications for our technology. And over again, people kept saying, well, if you can put it in an aircraft, can you shrink it down and put it on a drone system? And we're like, maybe we can. So we started working on that, and we found a feasible path forward. We started talking to lots of other companies, outside of B2G, business to government, but B2B, business to business applications who are really interested in better cameras for their drone systems. So that's something we're actively pursuing right now. We have $1 million grant from the National Science Foundation to build out that drone camera system. So that's going to be kind of our first big foray into that market. But at the same time, we're continuing to push along our media entertainment system. We want to, over time, reduce the cost so that it's more affordable. We can get into more people's hands. We'll probably still keep it at the professional level, like prosumer, not really full consumer. But the more people that have it, the more content they create and the more experiences we can share with people around the world.
Yeah, it ups marketing, and you can do things like VR setups at any sort of like showcase that'll get a lot of attention. Like you're going to be at ImagineRIT, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we'll see you there. Look for the 11-foot tall rocket.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, we're trying to be the biggest booth, so.
There you go. I had a booth a couple years ago that went from the second floor of GIS down to the ground. Ooh. So it was a one-story display. We were going to go 2 stories with it, but I think we were told we couldn't do that for some reason.
They were very specific about what they allow. Like, another club I'm in has a human-sized hamster wheel. We've gone away with that now for 2 years.
Nice.
That'll be in the field house too. So to just wrap this up, then I'd say this fits pretty much all of the definition I had. Adaptability, your system will be able to slide into so many different fields. Then drive, it's going to take a bit to get such a new technology out. You have to get on the ground level, show people what it is, because some might not believe it. There's a lot of skepticism with new tech, as always. Well aware of that.
Yeah, one of the things we deal with is, so we're doing hardware, right? And software, you can get it out there, and every night you can release a patch and you can continually update that. So if what you put out there right away isn't perfect, it can be fixed. Hardware is really difficult because once you sell it to someone, they want it to work for the life of the unit. There are no updates, there's no recalls, or they'll get upset. Additionally, there's many different types of hardware. There's some where your MVP, or minimum viable product, can be 3D printed and are relatively cheap to get out there. And then there's ours, which is called a heavy prototype, meaning it takes us literally, we've been working on putting this one together since the beginning of 2020. Now, granted, there was a whole pandemic in there, but developing and putting together a system like this costs more than $2 million. And it's over 24 months at this point in time with just designing it and then ordering all the materials for it. I mean, right now, some of the custom types of glass and optics that we have, it takes 7 months to get the custom glass made and sent to us. And then it takes another 6 months to have the custom optics made out of that glass. In the future, this will get a lot better when we start to scale and we can have established supply lines. But when you're making everything as a one-off, imagine if you had to go through and make an iPhone from scratch. It wouldn't cost $1,000. It would cost $1 million or more, right? So that's kind of what we're dealing with right now.
Yeah, it definitely is the scale factor of manufacturing, setting up all of that. Given we're all be going for the summer at Tesla, looking at what happened with the Roadster initially to now the 6 gigafactories is an insane scale up for 20 years of the company.
Definitely.
And this will be fairly hard. Everyone knows about the supply chain shortages.
Yeah.
And how that's been going. Thanks for being here at Exploring Innovation. And this is Gillian here with Ian, signing out.
Thanks, Gillian.